What is the ego? It's something that we're born with. We're born with two things: the Holy Spirit, that divinity that's within all of us, and the ego. The ego is that voice that you hear inside of your head all the time, maybe tempting you to eat this, or to say that, or to do that. The ego is the thing that drives us. It's the very thing that creates the illusions that I talked about last week. It's the very thing that wants to keep us separate from God. The ego, believe it or not, is the one thing that we have to shed so that we can experience the kingdom of heaven. God and the kingdom of heaven are not something that's way far off in the distance. It's actually something that we can experience right now, in the present moment. See, we have a war inside of us, a war between the spiritual man and the ego. And the ego wants nothing more than to keep you separate from God. In fact, that's its whole purpose. Its whole purpose is to lie to you, to lie, steal, and deceive, to prowl about like a roaring lion seeking whom it may devour. In fact, that person is you. And yes, you may have picked up on the biblical reference that I made, and yeah, that's what I mean. The devil, Satan, is your ego. That's the one that stands and accuses you. It accuses others. It stands in the kingdom of heaven that is within you and accuses you before God, because the last thing it wants is for you to know who you are, a child of God. It will do anything it can to make sure that you never come to this realization, that this truth never dawns on you, because the ego is a great liar and a great deceiver. You know, we've heard that in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must be born again. Well, this is true. That means the ego must go away. That old liar and deceiver must be cast from heaven, that heaven that's within you. And I say, you don't even know who you are. You've been listening to that deceiver and that accuser for so long that you don't even know who you really are, who God is inside of you. But He's there. And the way to be born again is to cast out the ego. But how do we cast out the ego? Well, that's a good question. And I'll get into that more next week. But for now, it's enough to know who the ego is. It's enough to know who your adversary is. So this week, take some time, every day, sit down in your prayer closet and get quiet. Don't talk, just be quiet. And when that old adversary prowls about and starts whispering in your head, cast him aside and listen for God, because He's in there too. That's all for this week. Let me just leave you with this. Remember that the kingdom of heaven is inside of you right now, and it's accessible right now.